Next, I'm pleased to invite Sumit Birsaya, Head of Constitution Building and International Idea. Sumit.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thanks to the World Justice Project for the invitation to speak here today. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when I came here, everyone was smiling out there. It felt more like a wedding than a conference at the dying, raging of the light where rule of law recession. And so really, my compliments to you, Alex, to Alejandro, and the whole team at World Justice Project for not just organizing an event like this, which has been meticulous in its quality, but I would say curating an event like this. And one of the best things events like this can do is give us the energy to go back to our jobs with renewed commitment. So I salute you. But of course, this conference is more than just vibes. We have the Warsaw Principles, which International IDEA strongly supports, adheres, and commits to. And while we are seeking to engage with each one of these principles on a day-to-day basis in our work, I would single out principle number 1, which is about strengthening institutional checks and balances and the separation of powers. I work on constitution building, helping countries to design new constitutions. And I just wanted to therefore say a word about institutions and why they're important. At the Philadelphia Convention, when they drafted the US Constitution, Benjamin Franklin comes out afterwards. And a woman says to him, Mr. Franklin, what have you done? Because the whole thing was in secrecy. And Franklin says, we've created a republic, if you can keep it. And it is the people that will ultimately be responsible for whether they live in a democracy and a rule of law. But the people need space to express themselves, they need time, and they need information. And it is the legal and institutional framework that provides the architecture for this space, time, and information. It is the legal and institutional framework that is under attack in rule of law backsliding and democratic backsliding. So we will continue to focus on strengthening institutions, but I would urge all of us to engage in more creative imagination. When I go around the world working on constitutions, despite the fact that we know that contexts are so different, constitutions tend to look the same from country to country in very different contexts. And most of them are using 18th century technology to deal with 21st century problems. So I think we need to be more creative. Hill does wonderful work in micro-justice level of being innovative. I would like to scale up that work to redesign, reimagine institutions, separation of powers, and checks and balances. The one takeaway out of many I would take from this conference is that we need to be proactive. There was Flavia Pellegrino who said that this morning, that we need to be proactive and vigilant. Where rule of law and democracy are strong, we cannot be complacent. We need to monitor, assess, strengthen potential vulnerabilities, because as we've seen in many countries around the world, when the recession happens, when backsliding happens, it's very hard to reverse. Sometimes we use the phrase building the rule of law, and I think it's a misnomer, because the rule of law is not like a house that you construct and then it's there. To me, the rule of law is like a garden. We need to tend to it on a constant basis, water the plants, prune the trees, sometimes get down on our hands and knees and get dirty and pull out the bad weeds. But we need more constant vigilance in places where we think the rule of law is strong and democratic before things turn. And thirdly, in terms of our commitment, I would like to, there was one of these cubes here before, and it said 59% of countries have witnessed less checks on the executive, less constraints on the executive in the past year. And I would ask you a question, right? So is that a rule of law problem, or is that a democracy problem? And the answer is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to those actors that are removing those constraints to aggrandize executive power. It doesn't matter to the citizens that will suffer as a consequence. But we have created these different epistemic communities where we are not talking to each other as much as I think we should. So my commitment with the World Justice Project is to seek to find ways to bring those communities together, because it's only together that we can consolidate our ranks in defending the rule of law and democracy and seek to reverse this rule of law and democratic recession. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sumit. Thank you very much for reminding us that we have to break the silos and really bring communities together to take care of our rule of law garden. And we look forward to working together to do that.